Hi, I'm Kenny. In this video, I'm gonna introduce a very basic pair of concepts in the Canada immigration field: eligibility and admissibility. Understanding these concepts correctly is crucial for you to understand the entire Canada immigration determination process. Now let's do it. First of all, let's look at what they share in common between these two concepts. Obviously, both the eligibility and admissibility are requirements to the applicants. The difference is, when we talk about the eligibility requirements, we are always talking about a specific immigration program. For example, the temporary resident program, which includes the visitor visa, study permit, and work permit. They all share a common statutory eligibility requirement, which is the applicant has to satisfy the officer that they will leave Canada by the end of the authorized stay. For the visitor visa, which is also called a temporary resident visa, this is stipulated in the Section B of Article 179 of the regulations. For the study permit, this is stipulated in the subsection B of Section 1 of the Article 200 of the regulations. As to the work permit, this is stipulated in the subsection B of Section 1 of the Article 216 in the IRPR. And besides this common eligibility requirement, each of the program has its own additional eligibility requirement. For example, the visitor visa program requires the applicant to be a genuine visitor. What does that mean? How can we prove that we are a genuine visitor? Well, that's a huge topic to discuss about, and I will try to examine it in very details in my following videos. So stay tuned. For the study permit application, you are gonna need an offer letter from a Canadian designated educational institute. And for the work permit, you are gonna need either a job offer letter supported by an RMIA, or you satisfy the RMA exempted job offer program, or you qualify for the open work permit program such as spousal work permit or other kinds of that programs. As to the permanent resident programs, there are too many of them, and each of them has their individual eligibility requirement. For example, if you are applying through the Express Entry Canadian Experience class, you are gonna need at least 1 year full-time Canadian work experience under the high skill occupation, which is the Tier 0 to Tier 3 in the 3 years before the application is made. If you are applying through a Provincial Nominee program, obviously you are gonna need a Provincial Nominee certificate. For the family class application, you are gonna meet not only the eligibility requirements for the applicants, but also the eligibility requirements for the sponsor to get your application approved. There are also refugee class, permit holder class, and even the humanitarian and compassionate considerations, which is not exactly an immigration program. I will examine all of these in details in my following videos. As you can see, every single immigration program has its own eligibility requirement. So when we talk about eligibility requirement, we must be specific and responsive to the program in question. It feels like a whitelist. As long as you meet the conditions in this list, you got a pass. What about the admissibility requirement? What is admissibility? What does that mean? It means the character of the applicant to be admissible to Canada. And in most cases, these requirements are global and general, which means they are not specific to any single immigration program. No matter you are applying for a visitor visa, study permit, or work permit, or even permanent resident program, you have to be admissible. Well, let's think about a blacklist. There are many conditions listed in that blacklist. And if you fall under any condition in that list, you got a stop sign and you are not going anywhere. So what are those conditions like? Well, there are too many of them. For example, for security reasons, for human and international rights violations, for sanctions, for criminality, health grounds, financial reasons, misrepresentation, cessation of refugee protection. Of course, that is for refugee claimant. Non-compliance with the Act, and inadmissible family member. The admissibility issue can be very complicated, and I only have one advice for you. Do not try to solve the admissibility issue all on your own. Always go to the professional, looking for professional advice. I will produce as many videos as needed to help you on the eligibility requirements. But I will not shoot videos to help you to solve the admissibility issue on your own, just because it's not feasible at all. I may shoot some videos talking about the admissibility topic. It's just for the purpose that you can learn about the essential concepts in this field. I have heard and seen many cases that the applicants tried to solve the admissibility issue by themselves, or they went to the incompetent immigration consultants or agents, and they got the wrong advice, and they just ruined their life and future once for good. I once had a client who has served 3 years in a prison in China. Fortunately, she came to me in the first time. After I did a lot of research, I determined that she may not be inadmissible at all. So I invited a professional criminality lawyer to work with me and the client for 6 months. After I submitted the application for the visit visa, it was just approved right away after 3 months of waiting, and that sentence became no obstacle for her life in Canada any longer. She has now been an international student in Canada for 1 year and working hard towards her PR status. All this is credited to her correct decision to come to me in the first time. And as a matter of fact, she also, of course, consulted quite a lot of people, including some ghost agent, who advised her to apply for a TRP, temporary resident permit, to overcome her criminality inadmissibility. And the outcome has proved my opinion was the correct one. As a matter of fact, many people in this industry would advise TRP as the first solution for many admissibility issues. But trust me, the TRP isn't the only solution, and in many cases, it's not the correct solution at all. Please do go to the professional for advice, because once you step on the wrong path, it may not be possible to save you back, no matter how much money you spend later. Some people may think that the eligibility and admissibility requirements are kind of like the concepts of sufficient condition and necessary condition in the mathematics. Well, it's actually partially right, because the admissibility requirements is kind of like necessary condition. That is, to be approved of an application and to enter Canada, you have to be admissible, which is a necessary condition. However, the eligibility requirement is definitely not a sufficient condition. What does sufficient condition mean? It means as long as you satisfy the sufficient condition, you'll get the expected outcome. But to get an approval, you will not only need to satisfy the eligibility requirement, but also to satisfy the admissibility requirement. So as you can see, the eligibility requirements is definitely not a sufficient condition in the mathematics. Though the concepts of the eligibility and admissibility are not very complicated, they can be still sometimes confusing. Hope I just explained them clearly. But if you have any questions or comments how I did in these videos, please do let me know in the comments. I'm Kenny. Learn my lessons on your way to Canada. See you in next video.